So today I'll be your tour guide. I'm Sally Goldberg Powell. I'm the instructional technologist with the Center for Excellence in Learning and Teaching with the e-learning team. And I'm also joined by my three colleagues in the e-learning team as well. So I'll let them say a quick hello. Miriam and David will speak with you later. Nada's also available in the chat. So I'll just ask Miriam to say a quick hello.
Hello, everyone. My name is Miriam Ahmed. I'm an instructional designer at the center.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David, and I'm a learning design specialist.
Nada Savicevic, educational developer. I will help with that.
So we'll start by actually explaining to you what the Tech for Teaching Studio is, what it's intended to be. So it's a small but flexible space that's within the center. So it's within our offices on the 7th floor of the Daphne Cockwell building. And the idea is it's uniquely designed for creating easy to produce short duration multimedia content. So think of small videos or audio files that you can share with your students that allow for a different type of content that you can create to share with your students. Another way of doing content delivery for your students that is in a multimedia format that can provide new and interesting ways for them to engage with the content. It's also available for still photography. So we'll talk mostly about video and audio as possible content that you can create. But of course, if you want to make still images and you'd like a controlled environment to do that with lighting and professional equipment, that is also something that we can do within the studio space. We also have some basic setups that we would start with in terms of setting you up if you were planning on coming into the studio. So this is because the space is also very, very small. It was originally intended as an office space. And so we've taken a space that's the size of a standard office and converted it into this multimedia opportunity for all of us. And because of that, we have to reconfigure the space depending on the setup you would like in advance. And so we have a few different setups that we can have prepared for you before you arrive, including using our light board, using a green screen or black and white backdrop. Black or white backdrop, not black and white, not a checkerboard, that would be weird. And also a document camera setup available for you that we can do either with a professional, like high grade document camera, or using a stand that we have for using your mobile device. So you can record them right on your phone and take them with you, again, in a more controlled environment with proper lighting and that sort of thing. And there's also other tech in the space that will help to facilitate us doing these setups or other things. For example, we have a laptop that has OBS on it. It also has the Adobe Creative Cloud for us to help produce some things for you. We also have attached to that laptop, we just purchased a Stream Deck, which allows you to switch between different setups or scenes that you do in OBS, which is the Open Broadcast Studio software. Basically lets you do some more composite cool stuff where you can do sort of picture in picture, put titles on top of things live and record those things. So it gives you sort of a mini television studio on your computer is what it does. So we're going to be using that software in order to facilitate the video recordings that we do in many cases. And then we have that Stream Deck, which makes it so we can create sort of shortcut little scenes that we can cut between, which is really cool. We also have a teleprompter that we've just purchased that works with a mobile phone. So you put your phone in with a teleprompter app and you're able to use that as a prompter. We also have the option of using a larger monitor for that as well. And we also have been experimenting slowly but surely with our 360 video camera kit. So that is still in early days, but we do have that as well in the studio space. So how the studio works. So if you want to use the studio, we have a bit of a basic setup and process for doing that for now. This will likely evolve. I'd say we're sort of in our beta testing stage where we're still looking for people to come in and try it out and use the system. And as hopefully popularity and interest in the studio grows, we might have to become a bit more structured in this in terms of how you go about booking. But for now, it's just a matter of getting in touch with me and we coordinate and figure it out together when would work for you. So for now, we're going to say that our bookings are on Tuesday afternoons and Thursday mornings. That's when I'm most available to come in and support along with our Career Boost students. And so that's the times that we would prefer, but if those times don't work with you, that doesn't mean we can't arrange something beyond those times. You just have to get in touch with me and we can see what we can work out. We also want to make sure that you meet with us before you actually come and use the studio space. That's to make sure we can set up appropriately for what you need the space for before you come in. So we have a sense of what you're looking to do and make sure it's ready to go when you get there, rather than having to wait around and wait for us to do the setup. It'll also allow us to have a sense of the scope of the project that you're doing. And by knowing the scope of your project, we can better estimate how much time you'll need and whether there's a lot of a commitment from our team post recording. So how much further support you may need. Our basic idea here is to provide you with that support a little bit before and during your booking, and give you a recorded file that you can then take and use almost immediately, if not the next day, that kind of thing. So we're not looking at creating projects that require a lot of video post-production or editing or sound mixing, those kinds of things. We're looking at things that can be produced in the studio and essentially handed off to you as quickly as possible. But that doesn't mean we can't do some cleanup and some basic video editing for you in order to package these for you. So again, that would be part of our consult that'll be part of our consult with you to decide exactly what needs you would have beyond the actual recording, or if you don't have any, or how much support you need during the recording, that kind of thing. Regardless of whether or not you feel comfortable in the space, we will be around and available to you throughout the booking that you have. So we'll make sure that there's someone there who knows the software, who knows the equipment, and can help if you run into any trouble for the entirety of the recording time that you book. So that might mean that we're in there actually recording with you, or it might mean that we give you a brief orientation, a little bit of training, just so you make sure that you feel comfortable with our equipment and go from there. And so it really depends on what you're most comfortable with in terms of the actual recording time and how much you'd like to be hands-on and how much you'd like support. I'm someone who has a fairly extensive background in multimedia production, but I still like to have support when I go in and produce things, because it's hard to do everything yourself and be a one-person shop. So it's not a bad idea to still take advantage of our support during the actual recording, if that's helpful to you. The other thing we want to do is continue to grow our collection of tutorials and guides. So we do have some guides available to you for things like OBS, the open broadcast software we'll be using in the studio. We do have some tutorials on very simple editing that you can do with the software that comes along with your computer. So those are using QuickTime and Windows Photo app, which actually has video editing in it, even though it doesn't sound like it would, but it does. So we have little tutorials for you that can help you with some of the simple things you could do with your files once they are recorded. But we want to continue to grow that toolbox for you. We also have some templates available in terms of things like slide decks and those kinds of things that you could use as supplemental material that you could use as part of the process. And again, as I've said, there is some post-production support available as needed, but we're trying to keep that to minimal post-production support in order to support as many projects as would like to use the space as possible. And we are a very small team, so that means basic things like if your audio doesn't sound quite right and you'd like a little bit of cleanup, or you'd like us to trim the beginning and end of your recording, that kind of thing. Those kind of services can be figured out when we have a consultation, depending on our availability and how popular our studio becomes. And we'll continue to reevaluate that, of course, and see what the needs are. So without further ado, I will actually take you on our virtual tour. And the way that we figured we'd do this is to provide you with some sort of infographics and some demo examples of what can be done in the space, to give you a sense of how this modular space can be reconfigured for your needs. So we're going to start today with looking at probably our crown jewel, which is our light board. So we have purchased a light board. It's a full-size light board with a table that rises and lowers, so it can be adjusted for height. We also have set it up with a black curtain behind it, so that everything that you draw on this light board will be clear and easy to see. And the way a light board works is that there are lights within between two panes of glass. You write on it with basically like chalk markers or a neon marker, and the writing that you do glows. Obviously, when you write on it, it will be facing you, so anything you write will look backwards to the camera, and so we need a little bit of post-production to flip the image for you. So we can do that by doing that using that OBS software, or we can use our Premiere Pro software to do that for you. But whatever file we give you will be already flipped, so you'll have what you need. Right now, we're set up to pre-record these and to offer them. Some people do use Lightboards live or use them in various configurations, but our studio is for recording rather than for live production. And you can see from this setup, it just shows you the equipment that we have set up in this situation. We don't necessarily have to use our professional grade camera. We also have a webcam. We can connect to a computer and record that way. We can also have it recorded directly onto your phone if you feel comfortable doing the flipping yourself. So many different ways that we can set up for you. So those are the kinds of things that we discuss before you come in to make sure we're set up the way that you would prefer. So this is showing probably one of the ideal ways of doing it, using our Lumix, Panasonic Lumix camera, as well as the lighting, and we have a microphone here. And I'll mention that we do have a new microphone that I'll talk about in a moment. How exciting. It's more exciting for me probably than it is for you, but we do have new audio equipment that has come in as well. And you'll also notice on these slides as I go through them that I've done like a floor plan version, so you can kind of see how the configuration works in the space that we have. Again, basically an office space that we've reconfigured. And so you'll notice that there's a door at the front. Over here on the far right, beside the door, there is a glass wall. So that's part of the reason we have our black curtain. It doubles as a way of blocking the light coming from the hallway. And then we have our setup here for the light board that you're seeing on the screen right now. Yeah, I just see a note now about the masking. The way we would work it for you if you're coming in currently, or depending on your comfort levels moving forward, would be that we would all be masked when setting up. I've actually done recordings in there during December. And what we did is we were all masked when we set up. I hit the record button. I would leave the room and stand in the hallway while the person actually performed it. And they would take off the mask while they performed and put it back on when I re-entered the room. So that's the way we worked around it. Again, because it's a small space, we don't want to both be unmasked in that space right now. That said, it also, because it's a small space, it's easy to set up, leave, and come right back and be in the hallway. So it actually does work pretty well. And so in this case, our demo example, David did leave his mask on because and allow just for demo purposes, but I would recommend you take the mask off when you're performing. It's easier for people to understand what you're saying if they can see your mouth moving, and it's easier for the microphone to pick you up clearer. So this is just a demo. You'll see how it goes together here in one moment. So I'll move to the next slide. And force of habit for sure. And this is just a little demo that we did showing you how the light board looks once it's actually produced to give you a sense. We also on these slides have a little box here with some ideas of ways you might use a light board. It's often used in STEM classes to do equations, and so it's often used that way. It's a replacement for a blackboard that allows students to see your face and for you to sort of interact with them using the camera. As opposed to just seeing the back of your head as you're writing things out. So that's why it became a popular way of doing that. But it's also good for diagrams, for visualizing concepts. There's all different creative ways to use a light board.
Okay, so we're going to figure out what the logic of our branching scenario is going to be. So beginning here, we're going to have an introduction. Let's make that a slide, perhaps. Then we're going to have first video, which sets up the first question. Let's call this video for question 1. A video link.
So that's just a small taste. The demo is a little bit longer than that. If you'd like to watch the whole thing through, you can at any time. And I'll just move on to the next setup for us. So the next one is our green screen. It's a portrait photography green screen, so it's a little smaller, but it works in our space well. What we figured out is if we're using the OBS, Open Broadcast Studio software, we can add green to the background and give us a full 16:9 widescreen green space behind you that can be used to place whatever you'd like behind you. So in this case, we've flipped everything around and we're using the other wall, as you can see in the floor plan view, the bird's eye view of the space. And in this case, we have a monitor that can be used as a monitor, or it can also be used as a teleprompter for you. There's a webcam attached, and again, attached into the OBS software that's on our laptop, our LED lights, and again, a microphone recording everything that you are doing in the space. And the great thing about using a green screen is you can put any type of background behind you that you'd like. And it's pretty simple for us to do that for you. So if you provide the backgrounds, that's the kind of post-production we might be able to support you with, is just adding those backgrounds for you. So for example, you might want to have yourself set up in a certain location, or take your students to different places around the world and have a background where you're, in these environments. It can also be used as sort of an animated background that has, points come up beside you with different things you want to say. So it's almost like putting you into your slides, if you will. You can also do this for different choices of different ways. So there's lots of different options and thoughts that you could bring to your teaching using a green screen as a way of placing yourself into a scene and creating that. So here's a quick demo. What I like about this demo that we've put together, and I believe I will mute it, is that we show you what it looks like when you first start recording on the green screen in our space, and then we've shown how we can replace that background. And so we can get rid of the green and replace it with either some sort of graphic animated background for you, or instead you could be on a background that puts you in an environment. For example, here, David is now in an office, and you can see this time he did take off his mask. So as I mentioned, we also have our document camera set up. We have a bright white table that you can place things on, or I can also provide a black background as well as surface for using the document camera. This one is really nice. It's an IPEVO document camera. We've tried a few out, and this is the one that I liked the best. It has really clear, good resolution, and it is very easy to zoom in really tightly and see small details. It's something that's really difficult to do in, say, a lecture scenario, right? To be able to share the details of like a small object, an artifact, to go over someone's work that they may have done and actually annotate it. I know I've gotten those sleeves that elementary school teachers use to put, like those practice sheets in for students to like try practice sheets, and they can reuse the sheet. But instead, you can put someone's work in one of those sheets and annotate it with a pen and show what they could do differently. For example, if they've made, I don't know, floor plans or art or any sort of visual thing that you need to annotate, or even someone's essay and you want to go through and show how to fix a sentence structure or whatever you'd like to do, a document camera is really good for that as well. So lots of ways. The demo that I have for you today is showing like a demo of a piece of equipment, which might be helpful in certain disciplines as well. But there's lots of, again, a lot of different ways depending on what you need that you can use the document camera. And again, I'm using it recording into the OBS software here in this example. Because you don't see my face, I can leave my mask on. Oh, the machine under the document camera is our audio mixer that we have in the space. So I just grabbed our audio mixer and did a demo using that. Audio mixers can be a little daunting at first, until you realize that each row is for each separate input. And on this mixer, we have 4 inputs. Within each row, there are controls for each one that you can adjust as needed. So that's just a very brief example of how you can use that setup to demonstrate a piece of equipment. Fortunately, I didn't think of it, but we could have zoomed in even closer and you'd be able to read the numbers on the dials clearly with this camera, which I really like. And it also holds the shot nice and steady because of the fact it's a document camera. We also have a phone set up for this as well. So if you'd like to use your phone to record on and do it in a document camera style, we do have the phone mount for that as well. We also have iPods available that we can use using this scenario, but if you were recording using our equipment, I would probably recommend using the IPEVO document camera instead. But that said, you can just bring in your camera. So if you have an app you like to use on your phone for doing quick videos. There's lots of really cool apps out there for both Android and iOS. And so there might be something you'd like to use to put together a quick flashy video. For example, I use Quick sometimes, which is a GoPro app, QUIQ, I think, or QUIC, QUIK, that puts together little like web videos with music and movement and stuff. But there's other little tools you can use. So if you wanted to do that and use your phone camera, that might be simpler, right? Or if you want to share the content. You can also use this stand in other ways. So if you want to record using your phone, we are capable of doing that. So you can use it, this arm as a tripod as well, and use it with the green screen, with a black backdrop, with a white backdrop, whatever you like. And so this is a way that you can record directly on your phone if you'd like and have a nice steady shot. And once again, another demo. I'll just pause it there because you can see how one issue with using your phone is often that it auto focuses as you're recording video. And so you'll see a little shake, and that's just the phone trying to focus in on what I'm looking at. And so you'll just have to be aware of that when you're using your phone as well. In this example, we're using input 1 and using an XLR connection. When connecting an XLR connection, make sure you line up the pins correctly. Okay. So finally, I wanted to mention the audio recording, and I will say this is a work in progress. Because this is an office space and not a true studio space, we still need to work on doing some more improvements to our soundproofing of the room. I found it's been fine for our video work, but when you have audio only, you do really want to have the audio quality be even better than you have with video, and we want to make sure we offer the best we can. That said, we have gotten that new microphone. We've gotten ourselves a shotgun mic, which is a unidirectional mic and allows you to record things and cancel out the sound around a little bit better. So we do have that, which will create better audio quality for you in our space, even with its small soundproofing limitations. We do, having the curtains in there, having some other soft things in the room has really helped. There's not a real echo. It's decent quality sound, but we do want to see about soundproofing because we do share the walls with other people who have offices. So we're going to work on that and see what we can do there. That said, there's a lot of potential for doing podcasting, and you can do a lot of this at home as well. So we might even have a console about talking about audio recording if you'd like, but we might end up deciding that it might be easier for you to do it at home and can provide tips for getting good sound even on your mobile device or through Zoom and your computer, just by setting yourself up well at home. And so there's a few options there available to you in terms of how you record these, but podcasts can be really popular, have become really popular because it's a way of getting students away from their screens, especially when we were fully remote. Giving students a podcast meant that they could take a walk and listen to some instruction or listen to some feedback. And that can be a really helpful thing to supplement the way you're teaching in the classroom. So all these ideas are things that could be used even when you're teaching in person as supplemental things that could be provided to students. I know one of the examples, the Lightboard example that I shared a little earlier about a recording in December that we did was to provide supplemental options for students who are having some difficulty with some basics of the course, to have some resources that they could go and refer to so that they can get up to speed with things that other students may not have needed. So it was a way of offering those extra supports to students who required them without taking up time within the class to do so. So you could say, I noticed in your last essay, you were having issues with XYZ, please refer to this video that I've prepared for you. So it made for a nice way of offering that. So just another idea. There's going to be even more coming your way in a moment. And so that's my quick tour of our studio, and hopefully that gives you a really good sense of the different configurations and the equipment we have available to you, and gets your mind flowing with some ideas of how you might be able to use the space and how it might improve or supplement the teaching that you're already doing. Again, really helpful for not only an online class, but for an in-person class. Again, I think of the lectures where you can't get nice and close up to show a detail, but you could record that using a document camera, for example, and share it in class or before class or whatever works for you. I'm going to hand it now over to David's got his camera on. So now I'm thinking it's David that goes first. So David's going to go first and explain a little bit about how instructional design can actually help you to come up with ideas and to figure out ways that this will integrate well into your teaching.
So just to summarize, given that our studio is geared for recording rather than broadcasting, the materials that you're creating are going to be used to facilitate asynchronous or self-paced learning in all likelihood. And so when we're thinking about integrating multimedia content with your teaching, it's good to kind of keep that in mind. And during the post-production process, you can try to think strategically about where you might want to intervene, have maybe some activities that learners can do at home online at a self-paced basis, and think about how you can chunk a larger piece of content into smaller pieces. For instance, if you created a video that ended up being 20 minutes in length, you could consider maybe splitting those up into 5-minute chunks, and in between those chunks intersperse low stakes quizzes or self-assessments inside of a D2L Brightspace module. That'd be an example. Moreover, the self-paced materials that you prepare for learners online can be thoughtfully and intentionally integrated with the activities that we do in class. And on the right-hand side here, we have some examples of the types of content you can create in the studio with some notes about how that might tie in with what you're doing in class. So for instance, you could produce an audio podcast that reviews or summarizes key points from a previous lecture. Sort of a nice, easy you missed it, here's the takeaways from this week's lecture. You could create a Lightboard demonstration, a complex equation or a question, either as a pre-exam preparation or a post-exam review. And finally, you could record a video using green screen to produce an engaging lecture material. And then with the time that you would have spent doing that live in class, you can then choose to prioritize your in-class time for more active learning with conversation and activities happening between the students, akin to what we call a flipped classroom approach, which is a blended way that you can deliver your course. And so if you're wondering, okay, how can I do this best? Miriam is about to describe for us what we can offer you.
As part of the process of intentionally integrating multimedia content into your teaching, consider including an instructional designer. For those who are unfamiliar with instructional design, we've included 2 definitions in the notes section of the slide. In a nutshell, instructional design is a systematic approach to design and develop instructional materials and learning experiences based on learning theory and best practices. It is learner-focused, it is driven by measurable outcomes, and it is an iterative process. Instructional designers are well-versed in topics such as learner engagement strategies, inclusive approaches, and accessibility. Our team can share with you strategies and processes for planning and producing instructional material and experiences, which includes how to connect your learning through multimedia content to classroom instruction. For example, we can discuss expectations for learners before, during, and after they engage with the multimedia content that you've created through the studio. How to choose and use pedagogically appropriate technologies. There are lots of tools for you to use in the studio, for example, but which ones meet your specific learning outcomes? And how to adapt your course for blended or online delivery. While creating multimedia in the studio, you may wish to explore ways to adapt your classroom course for a blended or online delivery. And blended, for those who are unaware, is a combination of classroom and online instruction. For example, we can discuss the type of blended learning you're interested in adopting and best practices. We offer a workshop on the ABC course design method for blended course planning. And our team is offering a series of blended learning focused workshops, which you'll find in the learning events calendar. Nada, is there anything you'd like to add here?
Oh, that's fine. Thank you, Miriam. I just say from my years of experience working in e-learning and online is that if you never did that, but I am sure many of you played with different things in multimedia because we switched overnight or we were forced to switch overnight on March 16, 2020. It's good to try small. It doesn't have to be something big. If you're just interested to see how you can do things outside of your house and use our studio, that's why Sally and the rest of us are there to help you. So that's one thing. And of course, we do have, as Miriam and David explained, different skills looking into your learning outcomes and syllabus and seeing what you can pull out and try, and without redesigning the whole course, which as I said already, we had to do because we were forced under pandemic. And just one more thing to mention, which we had a different workshop yesterday that we mentioned. eCampus Ontario, if you're not familiar, provided grants last year for different initiatives, like some that could be done through the studio. So basically creating some multimedia materials. eCampus Ontario is a non-profit organization funded by Government of Ontario. Basically, more than 400 projects across Ontario got these grants, and I think some was $50 million, and they will be available in May. So, for example, if you're reluctant and not sure, take a look. They will have a showcase, I believe May 2nd. We can share a link and then see what the other colleagues did. And the beauty with these projects is that you can take any part of them, use it as is, or actually adapt it for your needs. That's why I'm saying playing with multimedia is probably the best start rather than redesigning the whole course.
I agree. And I just wanted to sort of piggyback on that idea that a lot of us over the course of the pandemic produced really quick stuff, like recording our lectures quickly in Zoom or something, and then sharing it with our students. And there wasn't a lot of, time to really, fine tune it, make sure it was actually meeting expectations for students, would actually be really polished. And this might be an opportunity to take some of that content and sort of redesign it or revisit it rather than, throwing it all out. You know what I mean? I think there's so much that was worked on over the past 2 years that is great stuff as a starting point that could be, cut down to being little snippets or combined with something you recorded in the studio, or finding ways of using some of this open educational resources available to you to combine these. Some of the best projects we've seen are ones that combine existing materials and new stuff to make it more tailored to what you need without having to do all the work from scratch. So just some ideas there. And so with all those ideas that we keep throwing out there, when we get more specific and we know more about your particular project, we get even more on a roll with ideas and can help you. And so we're more than happy to do so. We're also more than happy to just help facilitate you getting off the ground using the studio, whichever is more suited to what you're looking for. So please feel free to reach out to us. And you can talk to any one of us. Feel free to reach out to me to talk specifically about the studio and setting up to come in to book time, to investigate an idea. If you're at the early stages and would appreciate instructional design support as well, which I would highly recommend, we can make sure to include one of my colleagues or more in the conversation. And I look forward to hopefully hearing from you. If you have an idea or would like to know more and you'd like to reach out by using the form, please feel free to do so. So you can email me or use the form to reach out. Either way, I get an email and we'll reach back out to you to discuss whatever you'd like. It might be a great idea to be something that you do over the summer, for example, if you'd like to reach out and plan ahead and come up with a plan. It might be a bit of a quieter time when you could take a step back and do a little bit of polishing or work to create some of this content and start small.